Do you hear that beautiful singing? Hello everyone, just Gordon here and welcome back to the Planet Zoo real life inspiration series. And today, as you can clearly tell and hear, we are looking at gibbons. So we are over here at the Beekse Bergen, because I had this beautiful footage of the gibbons singing. That's pretty much the only reason. And yeah, the Lar Gibbon, it's definitely one of my favorite animals of this pack, just because I'm so in love with them. Because of this iconic sound, something that can be heard all throughout the zoo if you're lucky. It's so beautiful, and I really hope that Planet Zoo is able to capture it. But yeah, Beekse Bergen. So we have this beautiful gibbon habitat over here. We're gonna see a lot of gibbon islands like the one we can see over here right now. The Beekse Bergen actually, pretty interestingly, puts their gibbons in front of the zoo, so you don't actually need your ticket yet to see the gibbons. You can just see them on the way out here. And there's this thing that people always mention, that you put a loud animal at the entrance of your zoo to lure people in. And gibbon is definitely a contender for that, so that is a nice bit of inspiration there. And other than that, we can see the staff building in the back, we can see the island, the climbing frames. It's a lot more lush, all of this in the summer. There's also another viewing point from the other side, from when you're actually inside of the zoo, and this is actually also where we can see the backstage building of the gibbon. And last time I was at the zoo, actually, we could see the gibbons, or you could see a gibbon inside of the backstage, which was a first for me. I'd never seen them inside of there. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the Beekse Bergen. Let's move on. And the next one will be the Zoo of Wuppertal. This is another Lar Gibbon habitat. We will also look at some other gibbons when we are coming near the end of this video. But yeah, here we can see just another really big island. They're basically at the front of the Zoo of Wuppertal. Yeah, these are also at the front. That's interesting. There's this big lake with some island in the middle. And you can walk all the way around the lake. There isn't actually a lot to see around the lake except for the Gibbon Island. And normally you would have, as we can see on the left over here, there would be this rope bridge that you can kind of get closer to it a little bit, but sadly that was all closed off for reasons I could not know, because I don't know German. So walking all the way around the lake, you get to the other side, and you do get to see a nice little reward, the backstage of the gibbons over here. There's this little building right here which houses the gibbon when they're not out on the island. So you got these interesting windows kind of curving or leaning inward. And yeah, you can see also on the inside of the building there are lots of climbing opportunities, lots of things for them to interact with. This building was not very tall, what surprised me a little bit, but I guess the one at the Beekse Bergen isn't either. It's just that this one has a viewing area and you actually get to see kind of what the space is like. But yeah, that is pretty much it. There's a second room as well, so they can separate the gibbons if need be. I'm actually surprised how small that little hole is for them to get through. Gibbons actually aren't that big. They look like human sized because of their massive arms, but they're actually quite short. What we can see really well over here is all of the bridges that the keepers, but also the gibbons, will use to get from the islands to the backstage. We saw this at Beekse Bergen as well, but here you can see it a lot more clearly. This is just one of the many ways that zookeepers use to get from and to island enclosures like this. So that's really awesome to see. But yeah, there isn't a lot more to see. Just gonna show you guys a couple more angles of this island, and then we're gonna look at something a little bit more unique than an island, and that will be an island inside of Europe's biggest indoor jungle. Welcome to Wildlands. So here in the Jungola jungle, there is a gibbon island, one of the many enclosures in here. Actually, they have a lot of primates in here, but yeah, we got on the Gibbon Island, and it's actually quite difficult to see the layout and everything of it because of how beautifully lush it all is, despite being quite new. Yeah, of course, if you're not familiar with the Jungola, there is actually a boat ride. So this boat ride is passing the Gibbon Island, and we can kind of see them from here. Actually, we didn't see them from the boat. What we can also see is this beautiful ropes course over here. I'm saying beautiful a lot today. And we got this ropes course which you can pass as a visitor. And we can also see a little netted tunnel over there. That's actually for the gibbon. One of them is for humans and the other is for the gibbon. And here we can see the gibbon inside of the little netted tunnel. This is something that we'll see in a couple of other gibbon enclosures as well. This is a great way to kind of let them in and out of their backstage without them being able to escape. I think the top of it is covered in some hot wire or something from over here. This is from the ropes course, we can kind of see that. Yeah, so you can see on top of it there's a lot of hot wire to prevent them from, actually, climbing the outside of the tunnel and being able to escape. So over here, going through the ropes course, from the ropes course you also get some more unique views of the Gibbon Island. Over here we can see them right there. There we have the large gibbon. I think that is not actually a gibbon noise. I think that is me whistling to make the gibbon noise. I am so sorry for being that annoying zoo guest sometimes. But yeah, we can kind of see the island from above as well. We can see all of the tunnels for the gibbons to go into the backstage. I think in those towers you can actually see the backstage more up close. But I didn't have any clear footage of that. And then this footage right over here is taken from the regular walking route. So from the boat, from the climbing parkours, and from the walking route, you can all see the gibbons really, really well. So that's actually quite nice that each of those have such a nice view. So let's move on to some more simple islands. These are from not my favorite zoos. Welcome back to Pakawi Park. They have Lar Gibbon specifically. There they are. Look at them. So yeah, Pakawi. It's actually a decent sized island for Pakawi standards, particularly. The climbing is fine. Like, I definitely much prefer Beekse Bergen, where they have got much taller climbing frames and a lot more interesting stuff to do. But yeah, it's a fine exhibit. I can't really complain too much about them. So yeah, but that's pretty much it for the exhibit. And then over here, yeah, after you go for this little walk through aviary, which admittedly is actually quite nice, you get to their backstage. So over here we can see the gibbons inside of their backstage. It's yeah, it's a little shack. That's pretty much it. Yeah, that's Pakawi. Let's move on to the next zoo, which is also not one of my favorites. It is Mondo Verde, which is a zoo / theme park in Limburg in the south of the Netherlands. It's actually like within a stone's throw of Aquazoo, which is makes it kind of more sad that if you're here you could be at Aquazoo instead. But yeah, we can see there's a gibbon island across from this huge like water slide log fume ride sort of thing. And when you go all the way around the lake, you get to the other side of it. So here is that, and you also have a bit of a look at the backstage from over here. This gibbon habitat is actually not that bad. Like they got a lot of like natural trees and stuff to climb in, which is a big plus for me. And yeah, just a nice couple of ropes in there as well. And here you can see some of their backstage. I think this backstage is also for the walk through lemur habitat. I think the lemurs can also get in there, so don't be confused with that. But yeah, it's very simplistic. I feel like this is the kind of backstage that most zoos would try to hide, but here it's on full display. The next footage we have over here is from Aquazoo Leewarden, and this footage was actually provided to me by my buddy Wildlife Quest. I'll make sure to link him in the description below. So we can see that over here at Aquazoo they have two beautiful gibbon islands. This is one of them, and there's this staff or the backstage area in the middle. But one very special thing that we can see in the back is that this habitat is adjacent to the seal habitat, and it's actually possible for the seals sometimes to go into the moat of the gibbon habitat. So if you're lucky, you might see them swimming around in there. So that's actually super unique. I don't think I know of any zoo that has something like this. So yeah, that's just super, super awesome. And the island itself is also really, really nice. Lots of natural trees for the gibbons to climb in. Ropes and extra things for them to get some enrichment out of. And then over here we have the indoor area. Just really nice and clean. It's nothing major, nothing spectacular, but it gets the job done, of course, just as an indoor holding. We also can see some of the area the staff is able to get to, I think. Or maybe that's also a gibbon habitat. I'm actually not sure. But on the other side, we've got a secondary island. I'm not sure why they would need 2 islands. Maybe they've got separate... I don't know. I guess it's always good to be able to separate your gibbons. So one thing that Wildlife Quest did mention to me is that these gibbons are actually hybrids. They're not pure Lar Gibbons. They're actually a combination of some other species as well. But there is some Lar Gibbon in there, so of course it's worth throwing in here. But yeah, just look at these guys. They are absolutely gorgeous right over here. Thank you, Wildlife Quest, once again for this amazing footage. And let's move on to the last Lar Gibbon. Then, for the last Lar Gibbon habitat, we have Ouwehands Zoo. Over here we got a beautiful little sign for the audio tour of the zoo. So if you pause the video and scan the QR code, you might be able to even do it. But yeah, again, we've got a beautiful island over here. And this is probably, honestly, one of my favorite of the bunch. It's got so much variety in terms of different kinds of climbing structures like poles, beams, ropes, rope ladders. There's so much different stuff over here, and then little bits of enrichment hanging off of it. There's just so much going on here. I'm a really, really, really big fan of this one, and you can also see it from the other side of the lake. Over here we are at the Blue Lagoon sea lion enclosure, and then on this side of the fence you've got a nice overview of the lake, and you can see the gibbon habitat from here as well. This lake over here is also the pelican enclosure, so if you're lucky you're gonna get to see some pelicans kind of swimming around the gibbons as they're climbing up there, so that's just super cool. Then in a different part of the zoo over here, I'm giving you guys a little backstage peek just because I can, because over here in the window there were some gibbons sitting around as well. These were in the backstage of the gorilla building, so I'm not sure if this is like a temporary holding area. I guess this is just their primate building, so this is where they will keep the primates backstage or something like that. I don't know why they were here, but they were here. I figured I'd show it because we're talking about gibbons today. So yeah, this gorilla building, by the way, oh, it is something else. It is probably the most unique. It's definitely, that's not even a question. This is the most unique gorilla building I've ever seen. Anyway, we're not talking about gorillas today. So let's see more gibbons. We've seen all the Lar Gibbon habitats that I've seen, but let's expand it a little bit. Let's look at other gibbons as well. So we're starting over here at Artis Zoo, the Zoo of Amsterdam, where they have the buff-cheeked gibbon, and they've got this beautiful building over here where the gibbons have a lot more vertical space in their indoor area, and just overall it's just, yeah, a lot more interesting to look at for me as a visitor compared to some of the other indoor views that we've seen for the Lar Gibbons. Just look at them go! Oh my god, I forgot that this is the first time rewatching this footage for me. I just skimmed through it when I was preparing to record this. This is so freaking cool. Yeah, I'm definitely falling in love with this building all over again right now. This is so amazing. And yeah, of course we got some education signs over here telling us that this is the buff-cheeked gibbon. There's also some signs on the side of the building over here going a little bit more in depth into their behaviors, the singing, stuff like that. And then from the back of the building over here, there's another viewing point, which is a little bit more in the shadow. So you got a little bit less reflection troubles. Of course, there is still some reflections in glass and things and stuff. It's annoying as hell and hard to get around. But yeah, over here, if you're lucky, you can get really up close and personal with the gibbons. And lucky for me, primates especially are very interested in the little microphone that I have on top of my camera, so I'm often pretty lucky in getting these close encounters over here, so we get a really nice look at the buff-cheeked gibbon right here. Super, super awesome. This was a wonderful experience. I absolutely love these. Yeah, there's nothing stopping you from making an exhibit like this for the Lar Gibbon as well, of course. It can consist of many of these same elements. So yeah, here we got a bit of a better look at what that indoor space looks like. It's just a lot of greenery on top of the kind of climbing frames that they have over here. And similar to what we saw in Wildlands, we've got this netted tunnel that leads the gibbons to their outdoor enclosure, which is on an island somewhere. So let's have a little bit of a look at that just very briefly. We can see they've got this beautiful lush island over here where that tunnel ends up. And yeah, once again, lots of ropes and things and stuff for them to climb around with here as well. So let's move on to the next other gibbon. Next up is another buff-cheeked gibbon enclosure. This is the one of a Bergen Zoo, and actually the first thing you encounter, if it's not closed off, because for some reason Bergen Zoo likes to close off areas of the zoo that animals are not in, is the backstage. It's actually the first thing that you will encounter. So let's have a little look over here at the backstage, so you guys get some inspiration for gibbon backstages as well. You can see, again, lots of climbing over here. It's actually one of the nicest backstages that I've seen. And I'll actually, the one from Artis maybe still takes the cake. This one doesn't have its greeneries and such. It's a lot more practical for the keepers, probably. But yeah, we can see in the background over there's a lot more holding areas as well. Over here we can also see a dusky leaf monkey. This is another primate species that the gibbons share their space with. But yeah, moving up from that backstage to over here to the main viewing area, we got this tunnel hallway with some windows from which we can see a netted over enclosure. And that's kind of what's unique and interesting about this particular gibbon habitat, is that, yeah, it's not an island with a moat around it. No, it is actually completely netted over. And I think I personally would say that I prefer the islands from like a visitor enjoying the view of the animal point of view. Not that this isn't well made, like the glass is barely an obstruction thanks to how they set up the tunnel and stuff. But yeah, I don't know, just not having the idea that they are enclosed in the space I do prefer, but the gibbons don't care. For them, the entire cage around them, of course, is just another big climbing opportunity, as you can see right here, with this one just dangling from the ceiling. So yeah, it's really interesting. It's really cool. I really do like this enclosure as well. It's huge. Like, there's so much volume here, and it's completely filled to the brim with climbing frames and stuff like that. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I absolutely love it. Bergen Zoo is amazing. What else? What else can I say? And yeah, of course, as we exit the thing over here, we get some more education, and that is it for burgers. Then we have 3 more zoos with northern white-cheeked gibbons, starting over here at Dierenrijk. They have an island, of course, very similar to the one at Beekse Bergen, seeing as how both zoos are owned by the same people. I will say this one starts leaning a little bit into Pakawi territory in terms of, like, I feel like there could be some more climbing, higher climbing. They got this middle bit, which is quite nice, but then the rest is a little bit, like, could use some more. Also, northern white-cheeked gibbon, slightly different kind of singing. It's really quite interesting to notice the differences in that. But yeah, not much else to say about them. So let's move on to the next zoo, which is going to be Apenheul. And Apenheul is a zoo that is focused primarily on primates. We've got a couple of other things out there. We'll see them again in the sloth episode. But yeah, here is the northern white-cheeked gibbon habitat of Apenheul, and it's just incredible how lush this enclosure is. Of course, some of the other enclosures we've seen that I've only seen in the winter might compare to this one, but in general, yeah, I don't think anything will. Like, this is just so incredible, and it's honestly amazing to me that they cannot escape from this in any way, because the area around it is also super lush. They must do incredible planning into, like, trimming all of these plants in such a way that they don't provide escape opportunities. But yeah, that was pretty much it for Apenheul. Now for the final zoo over here we have Planckendael. Of course, there's a zoo tour of Planckendael out on the channel already. Same for Dierenrijk, you probably saw the card pop up. But yeah, this is the indoor habitat of the northern white-cheeked gibbon here at Planckendael. And this is the orangutan building where they also have a little space. So all of these cages for like the gibbons and orangutan are kind of structured the same way, but they do have a lot of climbing inside of there. And then over here on the outside there is a bunch of islands, again both for the orangutans as well as the gibbons. I'm not sure which are for which, or if they like mix and match and move them around as a form of enrichment or something. But overall these look really nice. I love the amount of space that there is over here for yeah, climbing, things like that. Is really quite cool. So big fan of Planckendael, really nice one to end the video with. Hope you guys enjoyed, hope you got some inspiration out of it, and I'll see you all in the next one, which will be the Asian water monitor. It's gonna be a short one, but I hope you look forward to it nonetheless. I'll see you then.